Hey guys, so it is time for me to make a video that I never thought I would make, a very cliche, typical video on YouTube, but when the shoe fits, you know? Okay, alright guys, this is not a video where I'm going to sit here and bash a curriculum. I truly love The Good and the Beautiful. I believe in what they're trying to do. It's just not working for us anymore. It worked for us for a season and it might work for us again. I don't know, but today I'm going to share with you why we are leaving The Good and the Beautiful behind after many, many years of using their language arts and moving on to something that suits our family better. So hi, if you are new here, my name is Madison. I have 4 kids. I have a 9th grader that's 15, a 1st grader who I am going to be talking about specifically in this video. He is just turned 7, a preschooler who's 4, and a toddler, a crazy toddler who is 2, my only girl. So that is a little bit about me. We have been homeschooling for quite a while. I have homeschooled my little ones the whole way through. My oldest, I started homeschooling him in 4th grade and I used The Good and the Beautiful. So my oldest is in 9th grade and I pulled him out of school, started homeschooling him in 4th grade, and the first curriculum I used was The Good and the Beautiful. So I thought I would share with you guys a little bit of background, how much we've used The Good and the Beautiful, just so you can know that I am coming from someone who didn't just like try the curriculum once and was like, you know what, I'm going to create a video on YouTube just like bashing this curriculum because I know it's a popular video. That's not me. We have really used and loved The Good and the Beautiful for many years. For the most part, we have loved it, but it's time to move on. So let me explain. First of all, some good things about The Good and the Beautiful. If you want open and go, pretty quick lessons, you have a crazy time in life, maybe you have like 5 kids you're homeschooling at once that are like in full-on school, maybe you're having a health crisis. Like last year, my oldest, we had a major health crisis. If you don't know, I have videos on that. And I was like gone in the hospital with him. And it was such a blessing that we had The Good and the Beautiful because my kindergartner at the time, he was able to still learn how to read that year, still learn about math, all of those things, complete his curriculum because The Good and the Beautiful is so simple, so open and go, and it got the job done. So I'm very, very grateful to them for that. But this year, it's not working out so well. If you watched my last video, I did a haul of all of the new stuff that we got. So definitely check that video out after this one if you want a little input about what we're using now. I will update you guys a little bit in this video on how it's going, and then I will do another video on even more of an update after we've been using it for a little bit longer. So anyway, basically, quick background. My oldest, who's in 9th grade now, in 4th grade when I pulled him out, I used The Good and the Beautiful. It was their older language arts, the ones that had like the yellow cards that you had to punch out and that were like flashcard style, which ironically I am using a flashcard-ish style curriculum now, but at the time it didn't go well. The level we were using was like kind of below him and the flashcards felt kind of like redundant. And it wasn't working for him. So we quickly moved on to IEW and other things. And then his journey with homeschooling is not something that I'm going to get into. But I will say that their old curriculum did not really work for him and I didn't really like it. Now, however, when they updated their curriculum and they started adding in the booster cards, I truly liked that. It was much better. The way they have it now is much better than it used to be. It is very simple and easy and straightforward. So it's not locked, baby. Yeah. You wanna come sit in my lap?
Yay. Mama, yeah.
All right, here's my daughter. She has decided to join us. So anyway, from there, I did use the preschool curriculum for my now first grader. He has used their preschool, their like kindergarten prep, their kindergarten language arts, and their first grade language arts. He got halfway through that. And then he has also done the booster cards A, B, and then he was starting on C. So the booster cards generally go with A goes with kindergarten, B goes with first grade, C goes with second grade, but you can move faster through their booster cards if your kid has a higher, reading level, which is something that I have liked, because I didn't want, just the writing and all of that to hold him back from reading, which kids can generally go faster with. So I did like that, and I still do like the booster cards, but I think my problem with the Good and the Beautiful Language Arts is their actual workbook. Like, the booster cards are fantastic, and we might even still use them. I don't know, it just depends. But the actual curriculum is just, it doesn't really give you enough support to teach all of the phonograms. It doesn't give your kids a very good phonemic awareness. So that's one thing that I really don't like about their curriculum, is the actual workbook itself. The booster cards I think are pretty good, and I like the way they're organized and set up. Charlie. So as we were using the booster cards, I was noticing that certain phonograms, like AI says A, or UR says my son was just forgetting them, and I felt like that the Good and the Beautiful was not supporting me enough. It was just these booster cards that, literally you have like one card that goes over the AI phonogram, and that's it. And so now we have moved on to a different curriculum, Logic of English, which I talked about in my last video, and I'll talk about it more, that has like a ton of support. There's games, there's flashcards, there's all kinds of things that you can do to really, really learn these phonograms and really get it in your child's mind. So that was something that I did not like, was the phonemic awareness. Darling. Here she is again. Oh, how cute. Oh, how cute. Look at my princess. Look at my princess. Peekaboo. I've got another energy drink in today's video. This is an Alani Cherry Slush. Very good. So that was the number one thing that I was noticing as an issue with my son, and that I didn't like with this program. The other thing that I don't like is that it's a little bit boring, I would say. So my son started saying things like, I hate English. And when he started saying that, that really concerned me, because he's only in first grade and he shouldn't be saying that he hates something. Now, it's going to be hard. Even as we've gotten into Logic of English, we're having to kind of go back and focus on some of these phonograms that he just really didn't learn through the Good and the Beautiful. And it's a little bit frustrating and tiring for him. And so he is kind of, that part he's still getting frustrated with. However, I think that if we had started with Logic of English, it wouldn't be quite as frustrating with him, because he would have had, from the very beginning, they slowly introduce it. He would have had a lot more time, and they introduce it in a lot more fun and innovative ways. So they have a lot of games in Logic of English. That is something the Good and the Beautiful does not have. Now, I will say the Good and the Beautiful has that for preschool, and we loved their preschool curriculum, me and my son that's in first grade. We sat down when he was like 3 years old, did it. It's a workbook style, but there are lots of games, and we absolutely loved that. Then we went on to the kindergarten prep. There weren't very many games. It wasn't that fun. And I was actually kind of concerned and thinking at that point, like, should we continue with this for kindergarten? But I don't know. The Good and the Beautiful is so hyped up on YouTube, and it really is so pretty and so sweet. that I just couldn't bring myself to leave it behind at that point. And we did have a good experience with preschool. So we went on to kindergarten. It was better than the kindergarten prep. I didn't like that at all, but you know, not as fun as the preschool one was. Now, at this point, actually, I have tried using the preschool with my son who is 4. He's a totally different kid, totally different personality. He is a little bit more defiant. He will fight back with things, whereas my oldest kind of just does whatever he's told to do. And he's also very much a hands-on type of learner. He's very creative. He's very artistic, which is different than my older child. And so he needs more like hands-on learning. So even the few little games that you do in the preschool is just not enough. He needs more like manipulative based learning, which I feel like the logic of English is going to be a much better fit for him as well. He needs like actual, you know, games and items and physical things that you are playing with. So I can already tell, like we've started the preschool and I can already tell The Good and the Beautiful is not going to fit with my child that is much more hands-on. So I would say The Good and the Beautiful is very workbook based, and even the few games they have in preschool is not enough for a much more hands-on child. So that being said, that's the only one that has games. Now that we're doing Logic of English, it is so fun. We're doing C, and they have where they're focusing on trains. And they tell you to like bring out your train set if you have one, which I feel like most families probably have a train set. If not, you can probably get one off Facebook Marketplace or borrow one from a friend or something. And that has been so fun because all 3 of my kids have gotten to benefit from this lesson. We set up the train set and it has him read different sentences and follow the instructions for the train set. His reader is based off of trains. So that brings me to my 3rd reason for leaving The Good and the Beautiful is that this is a big one, guys. And this one is something that I think is almost shameful to say. And so for a long time, I hadn't heard anyone say it. And then I did start noticing a couple of YouTubers when they talk about The Good and the Beautiful admitting to this. Like very respectable ladies that I know are not raising their kids to expose them to like, you know, terrible things that a child is not ready for. Yet they said this as well, that The Good and the Beautiful is a little bit too good and beautiful. It's a little bit too goody two-shoes. And, you know, of course, children, a lot of things with children, you want to be, you know, kind of goody two-shoes and sweet. But children are not dumb. You know, they know the world we live in. And yes, it might be nice if the world we lived in was super good and sweet and beautiful all of the time. But honestly, doesn't that sound a little bit boring? Are the kind of edgier sides of life so wrong? Are they necessarily bad? Can we say that life is just good and bad? Is that the world we live in? I don't think so. I think it's a lot more complicated than that. And I think if you're trying to teach your kids, this is good, this is bad, they're going to see through that. They're going to be like, well, wait a minute. Well, what about in this scenario? What would you consider that, good or bad? Or is there some gray area? And can we just ignore, like say with emotions, something that I have learned with emotions is it's not good, but it's not helpful to say that certain emotions are good or bad. Like saying that being sad is bad and being happy is good. That's not helpful because we have to feel sad sometimes, right? And sometimes it's appropriate. It's actually the right thing to be sad and to feel that emotion. Allow yourself to feel sad and think, you know what? I need to feel sad right now. This is a hard time we're going through. I need to allow myself to feel sad instead of trying to have this like toxic positivity of pushing those feelings aside and bottling them up until you explode, you know? So I have disliked that, and that's why with my oldest, he actually did last year, we tried out some of the Good and the Beautiful high school stuff, or actually I think it was their book studies, which might be considered 8th grade for them. So maybe it was like 8th grade book studies that we did. kids are not bad kids, but they genuinely just like make fun of some of the stuff The Good and the Beautiful does because it's just so sweet, just too sugary sweet. And the books that my oldest was doing book studies on were like through The Good and the Beautiful. It wasn't even like they picked some classic literature and made their book study. It was like they actually republished books or wrote the books themselves, I'm not sure. And it's just so watered down is how I feel. And that's not classic literature. Like my oldest is doing Sunlight now for his language arts and his literature. And the literature that he's reading, like he read a book about a bombing, like an actual bombing that happened at a church in our history. And, you know, he's in 9th grade, so he's old enough to, you know, talk about those topics. Of course, that would not be for a 1st grader, but, you know, that is real life. Those are like real life things. And in the book, it's a family that's dealing with this. It's a real life family. And the kids are not perfect kids. You know, they question their parents and they make mistakes and they have flaws. And I'm like, that's real life. You know, we're not glorifying being bad, but I don't think we should also glorify being perfect and being good. So anyway, I hope that makes sense because that's one of my biggest like things I'm having an issue with. Like even with my 1st grader who is so sweet. Like this kid is the sweetest kid. Like he's one of my kids that just if you tell him to do something, he does it. Like he wants to be good. He's very sensitive and if he gets in trouble, he takes it to heart. But with these booster cards, you have these stickers that you get to put on each page, which is fun. Like kids like stickers. I think it's a good idea. And so when you master the page, you put a sticker on it, which I think that's a problem is that they would master it somewhat, but then you need to keep like spiraling. And I don't think the workbook did a good enough job with that. But anyways, you would master it, put your sticker on, and these stickers are beautiful stickers. You know, they're a picture of like a turtle on this rock next to this creek or whatever. It's so beautiful. My child literally started taking a red crayon and would color on it like blood. Now I know this sounds terrible, but I'm just saying he's a boy. He's a 7-year-old boy. Like I know you moms out there that have boys. Like you know what I mean with this kind of thing. Like he just thinks it's funny. He looks at this like, oh, look at this sweet picture, like, and it became a joke with us and it was actually a lot of fun because we got to laugh together and jokes are not always so good and beautiful. You know, everyone has a different sense of humor. I have a very sarcastic, dry sense of humor. Come here, baby. So anyway, like that's literally what my child was doing. And so then with the readers that they have, it's the same type of thing. It's this very sweet, perfect little story. And it gets boring and it gets fake feeling to me. And so anyway, close the door. I like with Logic of English or Sunlight or something like that like for Sunlight, it's classic literature, which is not all good and beautiful type stuff, you know. And then with Logic of English so far, like their little readers that they have, it's like about trains or dolphins or fireflies, which kids love learning about that kind of stuff. They have questions about our world, you know, and so I like that. So anyway, you have your reader that you do, and even before he reads this book about trains, they introduce the topic of trains, and we like discuss the difference between trains and cars, and you know, their different wheels and things like that, just to kind of get them thinking about the topic before they read it themselves, which is supposed to help with like comprehension and all of that. So anyway, I have liked that a lot better. That's a big issue I have with The Good and the Beautiful is, sure, it's really pretty and sweet and that's nice, but it's to the point where even for children, like I am not going to raise my kids just being like, we have to be perfect and pretty and proper all the time and let's pretend the world is like that. No, I don't like that. So anyway, that's a big issue I have with it. And I think that that's not talked about as much, like I said, just because it's a little bit like taboo to be like, I don't want my children's program being so good and beautiful, but I don't. I want my kids to be raised understanding that there are hard things in life. And my kids, to this day, like, you know, they fight, they have issues. Like, to pretend like that's not reality would be doing them a disservice. So that's my third point of why we have left The Good and the Beautiful behind for language arts. And spoiler alert, I will probably do a whole other video of leaving their math, because we are also using their Simply Good and the Beautiful math. And I'm thinking of changing that as well. I just haven't full on made the switch yet. So I will make another video talking about their math, because we've used a lot of their math as well, and why we're switching and all of that. So, but I thought I would just keep this video language arts, because I knew I would get a little bit long-winded and everything. Number 4 of why we are leaving The Good and the Beautiful is the spelling. The spelling, you guys, is very weak. Now, this is something I will say is pretty awful with The Good and the Beautiful, at least for kindergarten and first grade language arts, and that if you were doing The Good and the Beautiful, I would say at least supplement, maybe not kindergarten because they're so young, I don't think it's that big of a deal, but first grade, I do think you need to start supplementing with a different spelling program. So basically, I think that they just need to do more. I just think it's the workbook. It's the workbook that is not good enough, which is, you know, a bulk of the curriculum. So they do have this app, the Letter Tiles app. I really like that app. I think that's a fantastic idea. Like, I wish I could just go to The Good and the Beautiful and be like, hey guys, can you change these things and make it better? Although the whole good and beautiful thing, they're probably not going to change that part. So anyway, but there are some things that I feel like I could really give them some suggestions on. But anyway, so in the Letter Tiles app, there are certain times where it will prompt you to have your child spell something, like IR words. And it has the I and the R together, a certain color tile, so it's kind of separate. So it kind of points it out to the child. So I will read like a bird or whatever, and then he would spell it on the Letter Tile app. I liked that activity. I think we will continue doing something like that. Logic of English has physical letter tiles, and it's kind of a mess. They're all over the place. I prefer like an app, especially when you have like toddlers around and stuff. So I think I'm still going to use The Good and the Beautiful Letter Tiles app. It's a free app. I think I'm still going to use it with my other curriculum. So that's something I really do like. But besides that, any other time they would have you practice spelling, they would be like, okay, just reference this one page of like spelling practice ideas. Have them write it. Have them, you know, put it in alphabetical order or whatever. I just didn't like that. I want more like a concrete example of how I teach my child to spell. And that was not there. It was just like these random ideas. Whereas with Logic of English, there's like a spelling analysis. Spelling is really big in Logic of English, and they're using like their phonograms, and they are, they have like a little card, like a cheat sheet card, and then there's actually videos as well that you can watch. Now, we're new to Logic of English, so I'll do a more update on it, but it's like a full-on study of spelling, and I feel like it will make your child a really strong speller, whereas The Good and the Beautiful, it's like, just write it 3 times or whatever. It doesn't support me enough. I think that like for all of my points, that's what it comes back to, is there's not enough support. There's not enough games. There's not enough support with I can't say that. With your phonograms, phonemic awareness. There's not enough support with that. There's not enough support with spelling. Like, I just need more. Now, if you're in a season where you physically can't do more, you're having a health crisis, you have like a lot of kids in school, like there are times when you physically can't do more. I think The Good and the Beautiful could be a good option for you. But in that case, I might actually do like a Becca Online or something. All right, sorry, the battery died on my camera. So, if you are in a super busy season or there's something going on, I would actually probably recommend like a Becca Online or something like that. I'm going to make a whole separate video on that topic of like when you have a very, very busy season and you're struggling with homeschooling and what to do, or some tips or advice when you're maybe even thinking of quitting homeschooling. So that's a whole other video. But So as I was saying, it's not supportive enough. There are so many gaps and things that are missing that I have felt frustrated with. Now, I will say once more that the booster cards I do like, and I may end up still incorporating those into our Logic of English because I just like the practice, because it's a bunch of words in like QU words or whatever, just in a line. And so we'll see as we're going with the Logic of English curriculum if I feel like that's necessary, like for some good practice. We might do that. I don't know quite yet. But those are my reasons for leaving the good and the beautiful behind. I don't mean for this to be a rude or mean or hurtful video, but at the same time, like, this is what these videos are for, right? It's so you guys, at least for me, when I come to YouTube to watch other homeschool moms, I want the truth. I want them to give it to me straight. Tell it to me straight and how you feel about certain curriculum. So I'm telling you straight, the good and the beautiful worked for us for a time. It doesn't anymore, and I don't think it would have worked for us at all if I had started with my younger son. If he had been the first one to go through this, no, we would have stopped a long time ago. So, but every kid is different. Your kid might be different. Your family might be different. So these are just my opinions, my experiences, and I just hope that in some way it can encourage you. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. That tells the algorithm that you like my video. We'll put it out to others so more people can get this message. Definitely subscribe and click the bell to be notified when I post new videos. I have lots more videos that I am hoping to film, and I'm starting to think about curriculum for next year. I've got all this curriculum thought since I switched mid-year for this school year still. But of course, this school year will rapidly be approaching, you know, the ending is rapidly approaching for this school year, and I'll have to start thinking about next school year. So anyway, definitely subscribe for all of that, and I'll see you next time. Bye.